Welcome back to MMO Madness Behind the Troll Mask. I'm your host, Boss Mode, longtime MMO junkie, part-time corpse runner, and full-time survivor of way too many trade chat flame wars. So far in this series, we've talked about the roots of chaos, the griefers, the guild implosions, the legendary trolls, and the drama-ridden RP servers. But today we're going deeper, not just into the what, but into the why. Why do trolls troll? What makes someone log in, stare at a beautifully crafted fantasy world filled with quests, dungeons, and endless adventure and decide, yeah, I'm going to spend my night camping level 10s in a starter zone? Is it boredom, sadism, loneliness, some primal instinct to stir the pot just to see what happens? Or is it something built into the very architecture of online life itself? That's what we're tackling in today's episode, the psychology of trolling. Now, if you've ever been on the receiving end of a troll, you already know it stings. Maybe it's that guy who ninja looted your raid drop. Maybe it's the PvP ganker who corpse camped you until you rage quit. Or maybe it's just the clown in trade chat spamming ASC2 art of, well, let's just say anatomical designs. But here's the kicker. The psychology of trolling isn't all black and white. Some trolls are pranksters, tricksters who just want to laugh. Some are sadists who thrive on misery, and some, they're just people who crave attention in a world where shouting in zone chat is the fastest way to be seen. So tonight we're going to peel back the layers. We'll talk about the science, the psychology, and of course the war stories. Because you know me, I don't just want to define trolling. I want to tell you about the guy who whispered fake rage strats to 40 people in Molten Core, and the guild that collapsed because of one Loot Ninja's psychology experiment. This isn't just about trolls, it's about us, because at the end of the day, MMOs don't create trolls, they just give them a stage. First things first, what is a troll? Now, I don't mean in the lore sense. We all know trolls in MMOs are usually big, green, tusked, and saying things like zug zug. I'm talking about the human kind. The kind that logs in with the sole goal of ruining someone else's good time. And here's the thing. Trolls aren't all the same. Some are what I'd call the pranksters. The mischief makers, the players who pull stunts not necessarily out of malice, but out of the warped sense of humor. Then there are the toxic trolls. These are sadists. They're not just looking for laughs, they're looking for victims. Psychologists have a name for the fuel behind this behavior, the Online Disinhibition Effect. Basically, when you're behind a screen, anonymous, using a character name instead of your real name, you feel freer to say and do things you would never attempt face to face. It's like putting on invisibility in an MMO. Some players use it to sneak around, others use it to steal bread from the noobs. I remember back in World of Warcraft, there was this player. We'll call him Whisper Bomb because that was basically his whole personality. His game? Joining raid groups and whispering fake strategies to newbies. He'd tell them things like, stand in the fire during Ragnaros. I'll activate a secret buff. Or if you run into Onyxia's breath, you'll resist it the next time. And guess what? People fell for it. Whole raids wiped because some poor newbie thought they'd stumble onto elite insider knowledge. At first, people were furious, raid leaders screamed, trade chat lit up with accusation. But here's the funny part. Eventually, the community caught on. They started trolling him back. Entire raid groups would pretend to follow his advice. They'd stand in the fire, take screenshots, and then laugh at him in unison when nothing happened. Whisper Bob's reign of chaos ended not with a ban, but with the community turning the joke back on him. Psychologically, it's fascinating. At first, his trolling worked because he had control. He was the puppet master. But once the community flipped it, once the victims became the prankster, his power evaporated. That's trolling in a nutshell. It only works if people play along. Over in RuneScape, there was a guy. Everyone called him Potato. Why? Because he had this one troll move. Following people around, dropping potatoes in trade windows, and yelling in all caps, "Take the sacred potato." It sounds harmless, right? Silly, childish. But Potato took it to extremes. He would stalk players for hours. He'd interrupt quests. He'd insert himself into roleplay sessions, always with a damn potato. Now, most people laughed him off, but here's the kicker. A few people actually started role-playing along. They built a mini-cult around the potato. Suddenly, what started as trolling turned into community theater. Psychologically, that's the trickster troll architect. He wasn't trying to hurt anyone. He just wanted attention, chaos, and maybe a little validation. And the community, instead of rejecting him, transformed the troll into a mascot. Potato went from nuisance to legend, all because people chose to redirect the energy instead of fighting it. And that's the split right there. Some trolls are just clowns in digital costumes. Others, they're predators with a keyboard. In the next segment, we're going to get into the darker side. The trolls who crave power, control, and chaos. The ones who don't just want to make you laugh, they want to make you break. Alright, let's get darker. Because while some trolls are just clowns with potatoes, others are predators with plans. And if there's one thing that trolls crave more than attention, it's control. Psychologists have a term for this, the dark triad. Machiavellism, narcissism, and psychopathy. You don't need to memorize that for a test, but basically it means manipulation, ego, and a lack of empathy. Some trolls have all three maxed out like they min-maxed their character sheet. Control is their currency, and in MMOs, there are endless ways to exercise it. Back in EverQuest, there was this guy who made his entire reputation off one move, ninja looting. He'd join raids, wait for a boss to drop gear, and snatch it before anyone could roll. But here's the thing, he didn't just steal and run, he gloated. He wrote satirical posts on the forums mocking the guilds he robbed. He'd post poems about how slow they were in the loot window. He became a villain, but a theatrical one. People hated him, but they couldn't look away. Every time he struck, the server buzzed with gossip. Whole threads exploded with rage and memes. And the guy loved it. He didn't even keep half the loot. Sometimes he destroyed it just to make a point. Psychologically, this was pure control. He decided who got gear, who got angry, and who lost sleep. Negative attention was still attention, and he was farming it like other players farmed raid bosses. And his name still whispered on those old server forums years after he quit. That's the power of control trolling. Your loot disappears, but your legend lasts forever. In Elder Scrolls Online, one guild leader made the ultimate mistake. He trusted too much. He gave one officer full guild bank access. A veteran player, reliable, no red flags. One night, that officer logged on and emptied the bank. Gold, mats, rare motifs, everything gone. But this wasn't just theft. The guy broadcasted it in Zone Chat, quoting lines from Ocean's 11. He even streamed himself moving the loot between alts, playing the soundtrack in the background. The guild was ruined. Their rainy day fun was gone. Their trust shattered. For him, though, the rush wasn't the loot. It was the spectacle. He wanted the control of the narrative, the fame of the heist. And he got it. People still joke about Danny Ocean on that server years later. That's the psychology right there. Control trolls don't just want your gear. They want your story. They want you to rage in Zone Chat, post angry forums, rants, and immortalize them in your memory. They don't just steal pixels. They hijack emotions, and in the world where attention is power, that's the ultimate currency. Now let's talk about another fuel for trolls. Schadenfreude, the German word for taking pleasure in someone else's suffering. In MMOs, this is trolling distilled to its rawest form. No loot, no glory, no personal gain, just the joy of making someone else miserable. And if you've ever been corpse camped for hours, you know exactly what I mean. World of Warcraft had and still has a special breed of troll, the corpse camper. Picture this, you're a level 25 in Stranglethorn Vale, grinding tigers for a quest. Out of nowhere, a max level rogue ganks you. No big deal. It happens. You release spirit, run back, respawn. Boom, ganked again. You try it again. Boom, dead. This goes on for 12 hours. The rogue wasn't farming honor. He wasn't getting loot. He just sat there waiting for you to pop up and one-shot you every time. The victim begged in whispers. The rogue screenshot the pleas and posted them online with captions like, "Dinner is served." That is Schadenfreude trolling. The suffering is the prize. It's not about control. It's not about loot. It's about the sadistic joy of ruining someone else's night. And yes, the rogue got banned eventually, but the damages were done. Not to his character, but to the victim's sanity. They quit the game for months. That's the dark side of trolling. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's just cruel. In Rust, betrayal is practically a game mode. One player joined a clan, helped them build, farm, and defend their base. Weeks of loyalty. He was on Discord with them every night, joking, bonding, planning. And then, one night, he turned. He demolished their walls from the inside, left their base open, and led raiders straight in. The clan woke up to ashes, everything they'd built gone in hours. Why did he do it? Not for the loot, not for the fame, but because the sound of their screams on Discord when they realized it was him, that was the reward. That's Schadenfreude. Trolls like that feed on raw human reaction. The loot is just pixels. The rage is real. And here's the thing. We can study trolling all day, put it under a microscope, dress it up in psych terms. But at its core, sometimes it's just this. Some people love to laugh when others cry. Some players want to be villains. And MMOs, they give them the perfect playground. But it gets darker, because sometimes the mask of trolling doesn't just reveal sadism, it reveals identity. And that's what we're diving into next. Let's talk about the mask, because trolls don't just appear out of nowhere. They wear masks, and the scariest part, sometimes those masks don't hide who they are. Sometimes they reveal it. In episode 8, we talked about anonymity, how it lets players feel free, uninhibited. But here's the kicker. Anonymity doesn't create trolls, it just removes the leash. It lets people act out the sides of themselves they keep buried in everyday life. And in MMOs, that mask isn't just a tool, it's a mirror. It shows us who we really are when nobody's watching. Over on Balmung, there was a role player who styled himself as a tyrant king. At first, everyone thought it was hilarious. He'd demand taxes in Gil, stage over-the-top trials, and have guards arrest people in taverns for treason. People rolled with it. They thought it was satire, a bit, a fun villain to bounce off of. But then, lines blurred. This guy started carrying his Tyrant King energy out of character. He wasn't just role-playing cruelty anymore. He was being cruel. He mocked players' OOC, he spread rumors, he bullied people in Discord. The mask wasn't an act, it was a permission slip. He wasn't pretending to be a tyrant, he was one. And when the community finally had enough, it wasn't just his king character that got exiled. It was the player himself. That's the danger of the mask. Sometimes you put it on to play pretend. Other times you put it on and realize it's who you've been all along. EVE Online is basically the grand experiment in trolling as gameplay. Spies, scams, betrayal. It's all baked into the mechanics. One player built an entire persona around being a ruthless scammer. Core infiltration, Ponzi schemes, backstabbing CEOs. He became famous, or infamous, across the galaxy. But then interviews with him started popping up. Podcasts, fan sites, and the unsettling part? He wasn't separating the game from reality anymore. He bragged about manipulating people not just in-game, but in their real friendships. He blurred the line so hard that players started to wonder, was this still trolling, or was it just who he is? The mask had fused to his face. And that's the terrifying part about trolling psychology. Sometimes the mask gives people the courage to be goofy. Sometimes it gives them the cover to be cruel. And sometimes it's not a mask at all. It's just a mirror showing us part of ourselves we'd rather not admit exists. But hey, not every troll is a villain forever. Some reform. Some grow out of it. Some find out the hard way that being hated isn't as fun as being respected. Because here's the other side of trolling psychology. For some, it's not about cruelty. It's about loneliness, about wanting attention, even if it's negative. And when you give them another pass, sometimes they take it. There was a PvP troll in ESO who was infamous for trash talk. He lived in Zone Chat, flaming every kill, mocking every death. He got muted, he got banned, he was hated server-wide. When he came back, he made an ult. No one knew it was him. This time he didn't flame. He started helping newbies, coaching them in battlegrounds, showing them rotations. Eventually he admitted who he used to be, braced for the backlash. But the guild didn't kick him, they kept him, because by then he wasn't the troll anymore, he was a mentor. Turns out he didn't crave cruelty, he craved attention, and once he found a healthier way to get it, he changed. In WoW, there was a prankster whose whole bit was ruining raids with fake strats. He'd whisper new players, stand in the fire, it makes you immune, whole groups wiped. Everyone hated him, couldn't get invites, his name was blacklisted. So he re-rolled, new alt, new identity. This time he leaned into humor differently. He cracked jokes during wipes. He became comic relief instead of saboteur. And people loved it. He went from troll to entertainer, from nuisance to legend. All because his alt gave him the space to respec his reputation. That's the redemption arc. Not every troll is a lost cause. Some just need a chance to drop the mask and roll the new spec. Because at the end of the day, trolls aren't monsters, they're players. And players can change. So what's the psychology of trolling? It's not just about being a jerk. It's about power, control, sadistic laughter. But also about attention, loneliness, the need to be seen, even if it means being hated. Trolls thrive because anonymity lets them, but trolls also show us something deeper. That inside every MMO, inside every player, there's a trickster waiting to come out. The difference is what you do with it. Do you troll to entertain, to prank, to bring laughter, or do you troll to wound, to destroy? Because at the end of the day, trolling is just another class in the MMO of life. Some people play it chaotic neutral, some roll chaotic evil, and some respect into something better. And now a word from our sponsor.
Subscribe now to MMO Madness, Behind the Troll Mask, sponsored by Boss Mode Fashion, because even if your DPS is trash, your outfit doesn't have to be. Find your next respawn-ready outfit at bossmodefashion.com.
Got a grief story or redemption arc worth sharing? Email us at podcast@mmomadness.com. Your tale might be featured in a future episode. Hey, and don't forget to like, share, and follow the podcast. This is Boss Mode out.